at kmmu.org radio, and this is the Liberty Mom Show. Liberty Moms are the original secretaries of defense. We are the real defenders of the home front, and we are there when it comes to defending our families and our communities. I'm your host, Dalane England. I'm very thrilled about our lineup today. First of all, we have Speaker of the House of Utah, Representative Mike Shultz. Then we also have Kaysville Mayor Tammy Tran that will be joining us. And so we're really thrilled to welcome Speaker Mike Shultz, and he is a father of 6. So he is not a Liberty mom, as you can tell, but he is absolutely a Liberty dad. And he is a self-made man. He has a cattle ranch. He is a prior business owner. I consider a cattle ranch farmer, a business owner myself. And, he has 6 children, and they are, delightful and wonderful. And he has really amazing parents that I can testify to. I knew them before I met Speaker Shultz, and they are quite amazing people. I just adore them. And, Speaker, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, Dalane. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So we have a lot to cover. We have a lot of issues to discuss. The session is going to be starting very soon. And I would just like to ask you, first of all, what is wrong with you? Why did you decide to run for the legislature? Just kidding.
Well, that's a good question. So, you brought up my parents,
Yes.
Dalane, and thank you for doing that, because I do. I have wonderful parents that taught me a lot as I was growing up, and that's where, quite honestly, I think the liberty mindset from small government, keep government out of the way type mentality. And generally, the more government gets involved, the more government screws up things. And so I was taught that from a very young age. Any of you that know my parents will know that they are very, very small government, and government has its role, but it's in a very small place, and do and fight to do all they can to get government out of our lives. But my parents also taught me several other things: how to work, how to run a business. I was 10 years old, and my mom was helping me start my own worm selling business. I'd go out and catch the worms, the night crawlers, turn around and sell it to fishermen. And not only did she teach me that, but she told me how to keep track of my inventory. You taught me how to keep track of the finances. I still remember those accountant worksheets. This was back in the day before everybody did things on computers and QuickBooks or whatever program they use today. It was on ledgers and all the things. I still remember sitting down with my mom at nights and her teaching me how to keep track of all those things. And it really taught me a lot. And one of the things that they always taught me was to give back, and to give back to the communities, to people in general. My parents are very good people in the fact that they try to help others, and it's not all about them. And so as I took those skill sets that my mom and dad taught me growing up, and they use those throughout my life to become successful in multiple different businesses. One of the things that stuck is I want to be able to give back. And so I got to a point in my life in 2012 where I was looking for something and wanting to give back, but not knowing what to do. And then, a couple of years, so I went through a couple of years of that, and 2014 comes along, and there was an issue politically that got me a little bit energized. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. And I didn't think I would win, quite honestly, but I wanted to learn and go through that process. And ultimately, I ended up being successful. It's why I'm a huge fan of the caucus system. We can talk about that later. I know that's one of the things you mentioned that you'd like to talk about. We'll get into that when you're ready. But I went through the caucus and convention system, and I didn't think I'd be successful, but I was. And here I am today. And so I love the state of Utah. We live in the best state in the nation. We have the best people in the nation. I'm a huge outdoors person. I love the outdoors. I love our public lands. And so for me to have the opportunity to serve and give back to a state that I love very much means the world to me.
That is wonderful. Yes, you're absolutely right. You were really bred with liberty in your veins. So without quick doubt.
Wow.
Okay, so one of the issues that is really up front right now is the unisex bathrooms. Granite School District has planned to put these unisex bathrooms in a couple of their schools, and I know that of at least 4 other districts that are also planning unisex bathrooms. So I would like you to address that and tell us how you feel about this.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, well, I do have some concerns with the unisex bathrooms. I really wish, I hope people are reaching out to their Granite School Board members and sharing their concerns as well. Let me just tell you a couple of my concerns. I've tried to spend a lot of time in our public schools over the last year, maybe 2 years, because if I'm a firm believer in boots on the ground, seeing what's happening and learning and understanding things. It's one of the ways I was successful in business, and quite honestly, it's why you see me out and about as much as I possibly can be as an elected official and Speaker of the House. I like to get out. I like to talk to people. I like to understand what their issues are, and what we can do. And so I spend a lot of time in schools, learning and trying to understand. And I've had this told to me by a couple school administrators. One was a principal directly, and the other was a um, uh, uh,
Superintendent,
no,
principal?
sorry, vice principal. So a
Okay.
principal and a vice principal. But they say that one thing that bathrooms are their worst, their biggest problem areas in the school because, and so as I look at the design of some of these, I can see how the open area is nice where you wash your hands and those types of things. However, having an enclosed stall that you can't see under, that makes me nervous. I think having that enclosed stall makes me nervous. And then I also think about boys that use the restrooms and not having a urinal there. Seems like, I mean,
Mhm.
we all know how boys are, and
Yeah,
I just to me it doesn't make a lot of sense,
it doesn't
honestly.
make any sense.
And so I have concerns with it. I can't imagine the cleanup that would come with that,
Mhm.
and the poor girls that have to use the same bathrooms that the boys are using. Like
Well, they don't. The
it
bathrooms are going to be labeled. So there's going to be girls and
girls,
boys stalls. So
yeah,
those will be one sex, but that will be the only part. So yeah, a girl will go into the girls' bathroom, a boy will go into the boy, but the stalls
the,
will be labeled. But
and
as
the
a
but
woman,
yeah, yeah. Well, let me just say, but they're totally enclosed. The
yes,
stalls are
it's
totally
totally cool.
enclosed, and we all know kids, and
Yes,
I don't think that's a good idea to totally enclose those stalls. I just don't,
no,
yeah,
no, that's just a great place to get raped, a great place to have sex, great place to do drugs, vaping, smoking, all kinds of other things that
yeah,
people will want to do. Kids, young kids fulfill very much permission. They have a private space to go do whatever they want to in there. The other thing that I think is really important is girls and women, we're never more vulnerable than we are when we go to a public bathroom,
yeah, yeah,
because boys stand up and they do not have to get undressed to
yeah,
take care of business.
yeah,
Women have to undress from the
yeah,
waist down. We have to completely get exposed. We're very vulnerable. I don't even want, I've been in bathrooms, unisex bathrooms similar to this, where,
yeah,
yeah, you have a private stall, but you're washing your hands. You're entering with men. You're washing your hands with men. That is not okay with women.
yeah,
I know some men think it's funny, they just laugh, but for women, I do not want to enter a bathroom with a man or a boy of any age, size, shape, type. Absolutely. Through all history, women have had women bathrooms, men have been men bathrooms, and we're trying to change society and culture and diminish those lines. And there is women are different than men,
yeah.
biologically, emotionally.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. And with you, I like men's bathrooms, women's bathrooms, stalls for men's, or sorry, urinals for men's for
Yes,
obvious reasons.
right.
And to me, I don't understand the reason why they need to change. And so, and I understand, maybe there's a need for more family type restrooms, things like
Sure.
that. I'm super supportive of those for those people that feel comfortable with that. I think that's a good thing. But to have the unisex bathrooms, I'm not supportive of that. I hope people are reaching out to their school board members and opposing those, because ultimately that's where the decision falls right now. And let's hope that the Granite School Board reverses track on that and decides.
They actually already have. Superintendent Ben, um, Ben, all of a sudden I can't think of his last name.
Yeah.
He's he's a friend. I know
Mhm.
Ben very well, and he has already decided that as the superintendent that they're going to do the girls on the first level, boys on the second level, girls on the third level. So there will be just girls' bathrooms and there will be boys' bathrooms. So the people have reached out to the school board
Yeah.
members. They're very lovely, but there's only one who could kind of comprehend this. And so I'm very proud of Ben and very grateful that he has made a decision and he stood up to be a great leader on this
Yeah.
issue. And about what we do have to worry about is all the other school districts. So we do, your encouragement is well placed.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to contact their school boards of their local school districts, including Granite. We should call them and say, thank you.
Yeah.
Please make sure this happens. Please make sure this does not get lost and that it happens that way. So, because we do need to thank them when they do the right thing, and we also need to kind of stay watching so that things don't get reversed again.
That's great, Dalane. I think that's fantastic. I did not know that they were reversing course on that. That's really good to hear. Congratulations. And that just goes to the power, or to the importance of the voice of the people and elected officials listening. So that's great to hear. That's exciting. I'm proud of Granite School District. Absolutely.
Very proud of them. I'm very pleased and very, very proud. I just give a shout out for Kim Chandler, who was the voice who spoke up and said, this isn't really right. This is not what we should do. And so I just think there's a very powerful lesson there. As one person, it just took one person.
Yeah.
And she stood up all by herself, alone. She didn't go along with the herd, and she spoke out and she helped to educate people. And then people got on board, and she's made a huge difference. So thank you, Kim. Okay,
Yes.
another issue that is really big is public-private partnerships.
Okay.
Now, I think, maybe you want to explain what that is, what public-private partnerships are. And I think that I just want to kind of preface it with, we have this amazing system in America that was established by Governor William Bradford, because America was literally established on communism. It was literally established by living in common with each other. And as we know, the result of that was death. More than 50% of people died. Governor Bradford, the third governor, said, you know what, this isn't working, or I'm going to implement something new. He implemented the free enterprise system. Property ownership, you keep the proceeds of your own labors. He said it set the human spirit free. And we went from literally dying to starving. We went to not only just surviving, but thriving in just a very short period of time. The free enterprise system is really amazing. But I do think it's important to distinguish between that and capitalism. And then more importantly, the difference between capitalism and crony capitalism. And I think we conflate capitalism and crony capitalism. People can see crony capitalism is evil. It is not healthy. It is not good. And it does provide a lot of problems. And then we put the capitalism and crony capitalism together. And so then people think there's no difference. And so then they see capitalism as a bad thing because they see the evils of crony capitalism, where the free enterprise system is based on a free, fair exchange where you decide, but both parties have the freedom to decide if they exchange. And it's based on a moral foundation. Capitalism, you sell what you buy and sell and barter, again, freely, but not necessarily with a moral foundation. And crony capitalism, of course, is void of all morality.
Yes.
And so I see with, unfortunately, a lot of Republicans do not always see that difference, and they think that it's the same. And so we're engaging a lot in public-private partnerships. So with that being said, now you know where I stand, like it or not.
Yeah.
What's your take on public-private partnerships?
Yeah. So public-private partnerships, I was first introduced to them about, I'm going to say 8 years ago. And, when I first heard it, I thought, okay, maybe there's a space, and maybe there is a space for a public-private partnership, because in so many instances, the private sector can do things much cheaper and more efficient than the business sector, and or than government. And a prime example of that is, we've all heard the story how Donald Trump came in and saved the ice skating rink in Central Park or wherever it was, where it was well over budget. It was costing taxpayers tons and tons of money. He came in, did it for like a quarter of the cost of what the government was going down the road and doing it. And then he also ran it for several years at a very much lower rate, and saved taxpayers money. And so I think that's an example of where a public-private partnership could be, and again, could be used for a good, in the right direction. However, if it's being used to expand the footprint of government, that's where we need to draw the line. And I think that is not okay. And that's an area where I think we need to step in and say, no, that's not where we're going. And that's not the purpose of a public-private partnership. And, there's, when I first came to me, and other states were doing this all across, where they were having private entities build roads and then put toll roads and charge them under the government. And so, the eminent domain was being exercised under the government, things like that. And I'm like, when that first came to me, I was actually chair of the transportation committee, and there was a national company out pushing that type of thing. And I'm like, oh no, we're not going to have that in Utah. And so that is a core function of government, to be honest with you.
That is the proper role of government.
Yeah.
It's constitutionally the proper role of government.
Yeah.
So I would disagree with you. I don't think there is any space for public-private partnerships, because once you cross that line, you have violated the principle, and then you're in trouble. But what is perfectly, totally legitimate and wise and constitutional is contracts. The government has the constitutional authority to put out contracts for all companies to bid on, and they can contract that out, which is very different than the government and private enterprise combining and joining forces together, because it gives the government power to do things that they should not do through a company, and it gives a company power to do things they do not have power to do as a company through the government.
And under the public-private partnership that I was talking about, and gave the example of Donald Trump and that ice skating rink, that is the way that would be
Yes.
it done. Absolutely, 100%.
Contracting it out is within their authority and wise. And as you said, look at how many things the free enterprise does much better than the government. Because if the government stays in their lane and they stay in their role, that is very small. It's very prescriptive. These are only the things the government's supposed to do. Outside of that, the government can contract, or maybe they shouldn't even contract it, because a lot of things they contract, they probably shouldn't. But it's ice skating rink for a city or a county to contract out. I think that is great, because it does provide for the community. It's very positive. Okay, so do you see that being? It sounds like you feel pretty clear about public-private partnerships. Do you see that happening in the state of Utah? Do you see that being a problem?
Well, look, we're never perfect. We're never perfect, and but I think we probably need to put more of an emphasis on making sure there are clear boundaries set to where we're not crossing over into that area. And it's something that's just kind of popped up over the last year, and so I think you'll see us do, as we move forward, look to unwind some of those that have been done in the past. We're working on a couple of them right now, and I'm not ready to get into the details of those,
Sure.
but I think now that it's kind of been brought to the forefront, I think you'll see us look more closely at.
Okay, dang, we just lost Speaker Shultz, and hopefully we just lost his. I think he's there.
There we go. I lost you for just a minute. Sorry, Dalane.
Just a second. Yeah. No. Oh, we're so glad you're back. Okay, that I'm really excited about that. I'm very much looking forward to that because, yeah, it's like people didn't really understand the problems with public-private partnerships, and they've been pushed for years. I mean, I've been talking to county commissioners and legislators for over 15 years.
Can you hear me, Dalane?
Yes, I can hear you. I can see you, and I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Sorry, people keep calling me, and for some reason, when the call comes,
when they call you,
it cuts you out.
Yeah,
I apologize for that.
Yes.
I need a computer.
Oh, no worries. This is the beauty of technology. This is what happens. No problem. Okay, so I am really excited to see us as a state and you as a legislature to really work on separating that. Some of the areas that I'm concerned about are like the hockey field, the baseball, these entities. We wouldn't need legislation. Free enterprise can put in a hockey field and they can have a hockey team and they can have a basketball team. We just need to keep those things when an owner has a company, they will provide the infrastructure and then they get the proceeds of that. They get the profits. When the citizens pay for the infrastructure, they don't receive the profits. The private entity, the private owners get the profits. And that's where we run into some serious problems. So, okay. And this is huge. And I know we just could never spend enough time on this. Elections. There are several election bills, and I would love to hear you talk about some of the election bills that you're supporting, maybe some that you're not, and how you feel about those.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and actually, the elections audit, as you may or may not remember. So, after the 2020 election, I ran a bill that in the state of Utah, we now audit every election that happens in the state of Utah, general and primary elections. So and that was a bill I ran, I think, in 2021, if I remember correctly, that we do that. So every county gets audited, Lieutenant Governor's office gets audited. And, there's a couple things that I think that are still really concerning to me that's going to come out in this audit. And, I just was briefed on it yesterday. We will have an audit meeting on Monday. And we will be talking about the audit. Now, there's some things that I want to say that they improved on, whether it's the Lieutenant Governor's office.
We just have to love it. Technology is what it is. Okay, I can see you and I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I every time somebody calls.
You're a very busy man. I know we're very lucky to have you for this time. We really appreciate it.
No, you're good. And so, but anyways, in that, I was saying that I was briefed on the election audit that's going to come out and talked about in our audit committee on Monday. There's some good things that the Lieutenant Governor's office and the county clerk fixed from the last audit of 2022. But there's also some things that are really, really, really extremely concerning to me. And it's some of the things we already know about. The signature verification process. Boy, I'm really disappointed that in that there was not more effort put into that, and the audit well, we know about the signature audit, obviously, but that'll go a little more in depth again. And then also our voter rolls. There was not enough effort put into cleaning up our voter rolls. And that's our number one thing that we need to make sure. We know that we need to do a better job cleaning up our voter rolls. To me, it's a common sense issue that it should be like one of the very top priorities that has been overlooked. And there's a couple concerning things that are going to come out in regards to that. And so that will come out Monday. And we'll be looking to address some of those. And I think a couple of the ways that we can address those. Um, you know, as you look at polling, vote by mail is very popular.
Yeah,
Amongst,
unfortunately, yes. Much as I don't really like it, but
uh,
I do
yeah,
like it. I mean, of course, we all love getting our ballots in the mail. How convenient. Seeing it
yeah.
in advance is wonderful, although we can go online and look at it, but it's very convenient and it is very popular.
Yeah, it is extremely popular, but there's some problems with vote by
Very
mail,
serious problem.
and we need to figure out a way to go forward. And so I prefer in-person same day voting. I've always been that way. I do prefer that. However, we're in a situation now to where the public is used to vote by mail, and it polls extremely high. And so I think there's a way to do this. And I think we'll as we look to move forward. I think probably the biggest thing that we're obviously we can have a discussion around doing away with it completely, but I think there's a way that addresses everybody's concerns, and that is you still mail out your ballot, but then you have to take that ballot and you have to drop it off at a polling location. And when you take that ballot off and drop it off to a polling location, you have to show your ID and it has to get checked.
Absolutely.
That solves a whole bunch of problems.
A
You
lot.
no longer have to worry about the signature, right? And we know that
Exactly.
there's,
We
right?
completely do away with the signature ridiculousness.
And how
The
do dead
expense
people,
of that, the
yeah,
waste of time, and then I mean,
yeah,
there's just, I wouldn't call it fraud, but there's so many mistakes, so much human error involved.
I would call it fraud. There is fraud
Okay.
involved, and we do know that. Okay, and so
Okay.
that's the problem. That is the problem, um, and um, and we've found it now in 2 audits. There is fraud. We need to know that. But if you're showing your ID,
Uh-huh.
y-
That solves
it
that problem.
it solves that problem, right? And it solves the issue that happened in southern Utah, right, where there
Yes.
were somewhere between 500 and 1,000 ballots that were legitimately cast that were not counted. It solves
It's horrifying.
so,
It's horrifying.
it solves that issue. And how do dead people vote if they have to show up and show ID?
Very
Now,
hard.
some people will say dead people don't vote. Well, I'm here to tell you there'll be an audit comes out on Monday that shows that there were dead people that voted.
Yeah.
It's a problem, and
It's a problem, and
we
it can make
need,
a difference on the results.
yes, it does, and it has, and
It
and and,
has.
and so I think that's a way that kind of addresses the vast majority of the concerns out there with vote by mail. Yes, it is an extra step. You're not going to be able to put it into the mail any longer. But I don't. There's problems. Who wants to trust their ballot to the postal service, especially after
Not
what we
right.
saw
Yeah.
happen in southern Utah? And
There's no
so,
chain of custody
yeah.
there. That's not
So
wise.
yeah. So I think that's an area that I think maybe is an area where we could move forward. The second one is, uh, you
Well,
know,
excuse me, Speaker, aren't you
yes,
sponsoring that bill?
I'm not sponsoring that bill.
Okay.
Representative Jeff Burton is
Okay.
sponsoring that bill at my request.
Okay.
I, but that is something that I think is a good way forward.
You're clearly supportive of it, which is
I,
huge.
I'm clearly supportive of it because it does away with the signatures
Mhm.
and it solves the Southern Utah issue. And you have to show ID to vote. And we know those are all problems. We have audits that show that we have problems there. And so, and again, If you're having to drop that off in person and show your ID, you can't be dead and do that. So
And
it solves that
what
problem as well.
else? What
So,
else is real positive about that, Speaker, is the fact that there won't be long lines because all you do is show your ID and pull it. So you're not, you can go through a lot of people very quickly, but
yeah.
wouldn't we want to make that little effort in order to secure our most sacred right, voting, because we have no other rights. They're all
Yeah.
eliminated if we don't have free and fair and legitimate elections.
And I get, like, again, I am a proponent of in-person, same day
Yes.
voting. I love that. I love being able to go stand in line and talk to the people I'm
Yes.
in line with and voting in person. Like, I love that. However, uh, the public has become very accustomed to vote by mail, and it polls really well. And so it's been, as we've tried to look to unwind it in the future or in the past, every attempt has failed. And so this is an attempt that I think we can get done. So we're going to push hard. It solves most of the issues. Granted, it's not a perfect solution, but I do think it is a step in the right direction and does move to more secure elections. Okay, the next thing is transparency. Transparency is an important part that, and I appreciate Representative Lyman pointing out several areas that need to be recodified and statute areas changed to make things more transparent. We will move forward on several of those things. And then also, I'm a firm believer in uh, you know, the state elections, whoever's over our state elections should not be over their own elections. And so, regardless of how you feel about lieutenant governor or the governor, it's a bad look to have the person that is running for office be over their own elections. And so, resolving that and getting the elections office out of the lieutenant governor's office is a priority of mine and the House as well.
I love that. And I think it's not personal. It's the principle. It's just unprincipled
Yeah.
to be over your own election. Like everyone understands that's not a good idea.
And this
Even
was something,
doing
this is something that, we started to address last year, but we could not get the bill drafted in time. And it just came out like with 6 or 7 days. I mean, it came out at the very end of the session. I don't remember exactly the time frame, but it came
Right.
out at the very end of the session. And to be able to go through the process on such a big issue, it probably wasn't the right way, the right thing to do at the time. If we would have been able to have that bill come out earlier in the session, then we could have maybe moved on it. So again, this was something that we were looking at doing last session, and it just ran out of time, didn't have the time to do it. So we're going to take that up again this session.
Okay, well, I'll be there to help get that through because I think that's
Yeah.
really, really important one. And as do so many citizens in the state of Utah.
Absolutely.
I would like it. I would personally, I like the idea that the Secretary of State being elected, not appointed. I'm very against the appointment. I want them to be elected. The way to overcome that is they're elected for 4 years. They cannot run 2 consecutive terms. They can run again, but they have to have a space between so that way they're never over their own election.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just want to point people to
Okay, please.
to what happened in Arizona.
Okay.
Because Katie Hobbs, the current governor was the Secretary of State, and she did not run. And Katie Hobbs is a Democrat, and it's how Arizona went from a Republican governor to a Democrat governor. She was the Secretary of State. And so, constitutionally, you have to be, there's some issues there on prohibiting someone from running for an elected office. And so, again, I'm against someone being over their own elections. I am. And I don't necessarily like a Secretary of State appointed by the governor at all, honestly, regardless of who the governor is. And so, we'll see as we go through that process what ultimately what it looks like and what it comes up to. But with the number one goal, removing it out of the lieutenant governor's office, and then also making sure that they're not over their own elections.
Yes. Well, that will be a very fun bill to
Yeah.
debate and hear both sides. And that's what's so amazing about our process is that no one has all the ideas and we come together. We see the flaws in our own ideas and each other's, and then we all, we usually end up with a better solution at the end. So that will be very fun and interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the other things that I am very, very concerned about is that when we were talking about transparency, but also it does impact our caucus convention system. So what we had this year was if you signed a petition like to preserve our Utah flag, that was made public. Everyone had access to all those signatures as well. They always have.
Yep.
But if you signed up to put somebody on the ballot, that someone who couldn't get the votes at caucus convention system, so they went around our system and got signatures on an initiative, but it's gathering signatures to be on the ballot, then our lieutenant governor made those private and would not share those, although the law does state, I guess not that they have to be, but they can be, that they are to be shared with a candidate and and representatives.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated than that, but
Okay.
the law is very clear that the private and withheld, those that are marked private and withheld, cannot be shared. The law is silent on the other part. And again, I'm an open part of transparency. I think that they all should have been shared. However, the current law says that the private and withheld cannot be shared. So everything should have been open to the public, other than those that are private and withheld voters. Now, we're going to be looking to change that law this year and say that
Okay.
they all should be open and available, similar to the initiatives and referendum process. 100% agree.
Yeah, because you can have it private just for the public, for voter records, but once you sign something, then I think you give up your autonomy and your
Yeah,
privacy.
and the public shouldn't be able to see everybody's signatures, but they ought to be able to see who signed those things, because I think we do have a right, we need to protect the actual signatures itself.
Oh,
And
definitely.
but
Yeah, for sure.
yes, but everybody needs to be able to see who signed those. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. That would be terrifying, actually, if you just let loose signatures, because that's ripe for fraud. Okay,
Yes.
so there is legislation for that
Yes.
this year, this coming session.
Yep.
Okay.
There will be legislation on that one.
Wonderful. Do you think it'll get passed?
I do. I think it will. I'm an optimistic person. So
Well, but you're
these
the
are all.
Speaker of the House, so you have you have a body of really principled people who answer to the citizens. They know their reelection is always close.
We have a great group of elected officials in the House of Representatives.
And they have a great leader. Yes, that's so true. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm more concerned about the Senate. That's where I'm more concerned about those bills.
You know what? I've worked with the Senate for 9 years now, almost 10, and the Senate is as good as I've ever seen them. They're doing good. They're doing good. So we'll keep.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you're a very positive person. So, okay. I love that. Okay. So another issue that is really, really a big deal right now that is on a lot of people's minds is the Code Blue homeless keep warm shelters.
Yeah.
And I think I can speak for almost everyone in the state. I don't think there are very many people who don't care about the homeless. I'd say that almost every single one of us cares deeply about homeless people. And I mean, I can be very cold in my house with the heat. I can't imagine being on the streets. And I will admit, my heart is broken, but I have a son who was homeless, not because he wasn't like we wanted him, but he was on drugs And, you know, when you have someone on drugs, it doesn't matter how much you love them, they're insane.
Yeah.
And they will steal and they will do all kinds of great havoc. And you cannot have a home if you let them in your home.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying to have homeless people out on the streets in the winter. It's also horrifying to have a homeless shelter in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Or a code blue in your neighborhood, because you're inviting all kinds of crime and criminals, mentally ill. And mostly people are mentally ill and on drugs. There are very few people that are homeless that do not have a mental illness or are on drugs, because people have friends and family that will help them through. And we have all kinds of, government.
Yeah. Well,
Safety
well,
nets.
let me just address that for just a minute,
Wonderful.
and because certainly they need to be placed in the right locations. I mean, they have to be placed in the right locations. In people's neighborhoods is not the right locations. But let me get to the bigger problem here.
Okay,
And this because to me, if we solve this problem, then we don't need near as many beds and homeless shelters to begin
love
with. And I, for those of you that are in Weber County and are familiar with the Ogden area over the last, I'm going to say 40 years, uh, I want you to think about the homeless situation in Ogden versus in Weber County versus in Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. I would argue that when I was a kid growing up 30 something, 40 years ago, Ogden had a bigger homeless problem than what Salt Lake had. And
You know what?
you look
That's true. You're absolutely right.
and you look at today, and Ogden's homeless problem hasn't gotten really very, I'm not going to say it's perfect, because
Right.
there is some of that, and there will always be a little bit of that.
Always be.
But it has not gotten significantly worse. Now, counter that with Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. And you have to ask yourself, well, why? Because Ogden was primed to expand and become a bigger problem than what even Salt Lake City, was. Because when I was a kid, I remember there was a big problem in Ogden, but they cleaned it up. And how did they clean it up? By enforcing the laws and holding people accountable for the decisions they make. Salt Lake, South Salt Lake City, they have homeless shelters in their community. They have probably some of the worst homeless shelters in their community, but they don't have a huge homeless problem. Why? Because they enforce the laws. And so the homeless people go to where the laws are not enforced. Well, where are the laws not being enforced? Salt Lake City.
Downtown.
Salt Lake City is not enforcing the state laws.
That's right.
And they're turning a blind eye and turning their backs to it. We have got to get Salt Lake City to enforce the laws. If they're enforcing the laws and holding people accountable, we will not need as many homeless centers or homeless beds, because you're holding people accountable. You're getting the people that want to get the help themselves with the help. And then we have a smaller homeless issue. If they don't, Salt Lake City is on the track to Portland, to San Francisco, and other areas. So that's the problem. The ultimate problem is Salt Lake City. They've got to they've got to enforce state law.
I love it. It's so true. And another thing is, what we do a lot of things that cause people to be homeless, in my opinion, and I'm going to talk about it when you're gone, because I know we're out of time, but what we're doing in schools is the unisex bathrooms, the social engineering of pornography in schools, the trans pushing of that in schools is causing a lot of mental illness, which causes a lot of societal problems. And if we would just go back to teaching the principles of the Bible, and we found that there was virtually no crime and very little mental illness.
Yeah, Dalane, you have a couple more. I want to try and get through a couple more things really quick.
I do.
And I'll tell you when I have to go. But
Okay.
You brought up something that a lot of the issues that you just brought up really are more of a mental illness issue, and we're going about it the wrong way as society.
Or causing it instead of stopping it. Okay, so another thing that I think is really important, and I don't know that it's necessarily on the radar, but it is very important, is the initiative laws that we have in Utah and how this court decision that once someone gets an initiative passed, there's very little that the legislature can do to fix it. I would
Yeah.
love you to address that if you have a minute.
Yeah. So Amendment D, we look, it is the way the left wants to change Utah. They have
Yes.
announced it
Mhm.
is through ballot initiatives. And it's the way that they shaped Colorado, California. And you look at a couple that happened in Utah. Medical marijuana was not medical marijuana. Medical marijuana was recreational marijuana because it took out all the enforcements. The voters passed that.
Yes.
The voters
In
passed
pure
that.
ignorance, in pure, complete ignorance, because that is not what the voters wanted, but they didn't know what they were voting for.
No, they were not told the truth. They thought they were voting for medical marijuana. And uh, again, I mean, and so whoever has the most money is going to win. They're going to advertise a shiny star and then bury into that poison pills. We've saw it happen over and over and over again. And, the legislature figured out a way to keep medical marijuana, but do away with the recreational marijuana side.
Yeah.
So we have to, we've got to get back to the way it's been in the state of Utah for the last 120, 130 years. We hope to be able to do that. It ultimately will take a vote of the people to make that decision, but I'm supportive of trying to get that to the vote of the people to make the decision.
And that's something the only way to do that is educating the citizens.
Yes.
Okay, so there's the caucus convention system that I know you want to talk about, but there was an article that came out in the Tribune yesterday. I'd like to talk about that article. Do you have time to talk about both of those things?
Yes, let's talk about it real quickly.
Okay, hit me with the caucus convention system. Tell me how you feel about it.
Well, I love the caucus and convention system. I came into the caucus and convention system. That's how I was elected. And the caucus and convention system has saved me from 2 primaries. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to go through the caucus convention system. I actually like going and sitting down having neighborhood meetings, sitting down with the delegates, explaining to them the things that I'm working on, the concerns that I have, but getting the feedback of the things that concern them. It creates an atmosphere that has that open dialogue that otherwise wouldn't have happened with elected officials. And so I'm a huge supporter of the caucus convention system. I've been that way all along. And SB 54 was passed before I came into the legislature. And but I'm a supporter of that. I think I voted to repeal it 4 or 5 times. I'll continue to do that. I think it's important to know it I don't think a repeal is 100%. We've tried it for 10 years, right? We've been trying to repeal for 10 years. It hasn't gone anywhere. I would like to find a way to try to make the caucus convention system more have a bigger role, I guess is what I want to say, than what it currently has at a minimum. And so we're open to ideas. We're going to, we'll look to address that again this session. If we can get a full repeal, obviously we would consider that. I do say, careful what you ask for on a full repeal, because if you do repeal SB 54 completely, there will be an initiative ran to do away with the caucus convention system. And so let's find a way to move forward and continue working at it. And that's where we're at. So, yes.
I so agree with you. The Republican Party has a lot of power that they're not using to not repeal it, but to take more power and to really work the convention system stronger. And so I'm hoping that we will do that. So there was an article that came out that, it was interesting. Basically kind of throwing you under the bus, if I may be so bold as to say that.
Yeah.
calling out.
For standing up for Utah values.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's so fascinating how certain people, media, will take something and they will wordsmith it around to sound like it's a bad thing. Basically, you donated to a PAC.
Yes.
That this PAC is, I forget the name of the PAC. Sorry, I was trying to hurry and pull it up.
Preserving Utah values.
Yeah, which
Utah
sounds
values.
horrible. Like, what kind of PAC preserving Utah values? But, we also know that, pro-choice sounds wonderful when it isn't. So preserving Utah values sounds like a good thing. But what you're doing was you donated to a PAC that does actually believe in preserving Utah values.
Yes.
And so they're making that, like, they're actually accusing
shady. It's a shady PAC.
Yes, a shady PAC, saying that they weren't forthcoming and upfront. I just wanted to give you a chance to address that because I'm just like, wow, we need more PACs like that, preserving Utah values.
It is. And let me just say what the PAC did. And I do believe that the PAC is focused on preserving Utah values, and I appreciate what they do. I'm not directly involved with the PAC, but I did donate money to the PAC to go out and elect people that care about Utah values. And so, let's talk about who wrote the article. The Salt Lake Tribune wrote this. This is an article from the Salt Lake Tribune. Okay, and so I think I wear it as a badge of honor. If the
I was just going to say, I think that's kudos to you. That's like a good sign when the Tribune comes out against you. Like, that's like, okay, I'm doing the right thing.
If you remember, they came out hard against me for the energy stuff direction. So,
Mike, can you just repeat that? Because we lost you for a second. Can you repeat that, please? No, dang.
So
I really wanted to hear what he said.
Remember, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can hear you. You're back.
Now? Can you hear me okay now?
Now I can hear you.
I want to have reliable energy to Utah. So same thing. They came after me again this year. They just did it. It was 2 days ago when the article came. Criticizing me for donating to a PAC that informed voters of how their representatives voted on issues on allowing biological males to play in female sports, use female bathrooms, biological males to be in female locker rooms. And, we've done a lot of work over the last couple of years. We even had a representative that ran a bill to have taxpayer-funded sex change surgeries. Okay, and that's all the PAC did was inform voters how those legislators vote. And I donated to that. There isn't anybody in the state of Utah that is going to stand up louder and stronger on making sure that males stay in their lanes, females stay in their lanes, and that we keep males, biological males, out of female sports, out of female bathrooms, and out of female locker rooms. It is, to me, to even have this conversation is ridiculous. I can't imagine a place that we are in right now that this is even a debate. And so I'm grateful for the things that we've done here in Utah. I'm grateful for the citizens of the Utah because they have by and large rejected this. The citizens of our nation just by and large rejected this. But yet we have a handful of really loud people that seem to think that this is okay. And it's not. It is not okay. We need to stand up. We need to be loud. We need to fight back and say, no, I'm committed to that. I will never, ever, ever apologize for donating to a PAC that does that.
And I am so grateful. Thank you so much. That is so well said. And that is exactly what we want. That's what a leader is. And that is what a leader does. is they stand up. This is not, they've made it controversial, but this is the foundation of all nations. This is right reason.
Yeah, they called me, they called this anti-trans, okay,
Yeah.
anti-trans. It's pro-female, right? Okay, so they want to
Pro-female.
call it
It's
pro-choice,
pro-truth,
pro-choice. Yeah,
pro-reality.
yeah,
Mhm.
they want to call pro-choice, pro-choice. But using the narrative that they used with anti-trans, that means that we should call the people that are pro-choice anti-kids. I like,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
I just, the narrative that they're trying to shape around this,
Yes.
I'm just grateful that the average citizen is seeing through it. And I will stand up and fight and use my voice and platform to push back and say it's wrong. And I'll do everything I possibly can to do that.
Speaker Shultz, thank you so much for being with us. So well said. We're so grateful for your time. And thank you very much for standing up for that. Thank you.
Dalane, thank
Well,
you and appreciate your work and effort that you do to keep us sane here in the state of Utah. Thank you very much.
thank you. You're a true leader. We appreciate you. Thank you. Have a
Yeah,
great day.
you too. Bye.
Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that was really wonderful. I think we can all say prayers of gratitude for having such a principled speaker in the state of Utah. We really are very blessed because of it. I want to remind you, you are listening to Main Street Media Utah, kmmu.org on the computer. You can find us on Rumble, YouTube, X, kmmu.org. And we do have a few minutes before Mayor Tammy Tran joins us. And so we would invite you to call in. We would love to hear your thoughts. Give us your feedback. It doesn't matter what perspective you have, you will be respected. Our number is 385-899-2134. Get your pencil out, your paper. I will repeat that so you can write that down. And we would love to have you call in and share your perspective and your thoughts on any of the issues that we've been talking about or the bills that will be coming up. The session will be starting before we know it. And I just want to wish you a Merry Christmas because I love that. And it's a very wonderful time of the year. And if we really want to honor Christ and we really want to have a Merry Christmas, then it is very important that we stand up for the truth. The author of liberty, Jesus Christ, wants us to be free from the bondage, from the lies that are being perpetrated upon us. And so this is a great time. Christmas is a really great time to have your voice heard and to take action. It's a great time to get educated so we are prepared when the session starts. Utah has the shortest legislative session in the country, which I am also very grateful for. And we have to get a lot done in a short period of time. And a lot of that is stopping bad bills from going through. But we do have some really excellent bills this year that I'm very excited about. And it's fun to be for something and to be able to support a good bill. And so, again, our number is 385-899-2134. So feel free to call in. My producer is there, so he's can take your call and hook you right in. And we are really excited to hear from you. I would like to just go back to talking about the unisex bathrooms. This is a very serious problem. This is a game changer. Like, this completely changes society. It's more than a culture change. It's a mental and a psychological change. And what I've noticed is I just went into an elementary school this week, and one of the school board members, when I was talking to them from Granite, they said, all the elementary schools already do this. So what's the big deal? And, I went into a elementary school, and you know what? They do have these very similar bathrooms where everyone enters through the same doors, and they have shared sinks. This is very unwise. It's very unprincipled. It's demonic. I am just going to say it. It is demonic to have bathrooms like that where girls cannot have a private space. They need to go wash their hands or wash up or wash their panties out, that they can't have some private space to do that. And too many girls start their period when they're in elementary school. There is no time, especially in schools, where boys and girls don't need to have absolutely and completely totally private spaces. So I would just invite everyone to please call your school board members and tell them how you feel and get them on board. And I am very thrilled to welcome our next guest. A little early, but hey, you're here and we are really excited to have you. So I am going to welcome Mayor Tammy Tran. She is the mayor of Kaysville. And Tammy, Mayor Tran, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear me? I do not show you're muted. I think she cannot hear me. Mayor Tran, can you hear me?
She's not muted, but her
She's
microphone.
not muted, but she clearly cannot hear.
Yeah. Neither the mic nor the speakers are working.
Right. Do you have a way to let her know to go out and try to come back in?
Let's see if I can.
Let's see.
No. Well, I can. She's smiling at us.
Okay.
Tammy, we can't hear you. Your mic is. It doesn't show you're muted, but your mic's not working.
We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you.
We can see you. Your video is working, but no microphone.
Not hear you. So, get your phone. Thanks. Okay. Technology is so great. For some reason, your mic's not working. We can't hear you. Can you go out and come back in? Check your phone. I sent you a text. Okay, we're going to see if she goes out and comes. We've had this before, and we're hoping that when she comes back, that it will work, and we can get her back in.
If she's on a Mac, she has to authorize her video is working. Let's see.
Yeah, that's really weird because her video was working fine, but she apparently could not hear me either.
I think she could, because she was smiling and pushing buttons. I think she could hear us.
You do? I don't think so, because I told her to go out and come back in, and she couldn't hear me say that. So, okay, while we're working on that, again, I would like you to look up, if you Google you just put in your school district's name and Google School District Board, then it will give you a list of all the board members. It will give you their numbers and their email addresses. And so I ask you to email them. If you are comfortable calling them, that is the best thing to do, because you can have a conversation and you can see where they're coming from and see what they're.
Let's try Tammy again. Let's see if we can hear her. Hang on.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, welcome, Mayor Tran. Can you hear us?
Is that better? Can you see me
Yes.
and hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Wonderful. Okay, welcome. We're so pleased to have you, Mayor.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if I was in a queue. I didn't mean to join early.
Oh, well, you know what? I just figured you're here and your time is valuable and you're not in a queue because we finished up with Speaker Shultz. So this was great timing.
Okay,
So
perfect. Thanks.
Really, really happy to have you come. And, you know, it has really been, I just have to say, it has been such a joy to get to know you and to work with you. It's been really fun. And you have a great synergy going with as the mayor and your city council. I really enjoy that positive synergy that you have going. And I have been very impressed because as I was talking to Speaker Shultz, as we discussed, the situation with the homeless, I don't know a person in the state, I really don't know anybody who doesn't sincerely care about the homeless people. Right. And especially in the wintertime, because, you know, it's one thing to be homeless in the summer, not much fun, but you can survive it. But in the winter, when the temperatures are just so bitter, it is just wicked. And people can die from these temperatures, besides being just so miserable. And I really have been very, very impressed with how you have handled the situation in Kaysville. So just to lay the groundwork, the Utah State Legislature passed a bill requiring now, I believe it's every county to have a code blue shelter. Is that right?
It's counties of the second size, as far as I understand it. So
Good point. Okay. And so then I'm going to just let you kind of take over and tell like what happened with Kaysville.
let's see. The HB 499 passed, I think, a year ago.
Correct.
And
Yes.
then there was an amendment to it, HB 298, that sort of changed the rules for Code Blue. And so it kind of tweaked the first bill. And so Davis County said we need a task force. And so some of us as mayors volunteered to serve on the task force, wanting to be part of solutions. And like you said, we care about people. We care about people a lot across the state, of course, across the nation, but especially here. And so we wanted to be able to be part of a solution to create a response for this law that was passed by the legislature. So that's what we've been working on for the past year and a half.
Okay. And so, yeah, and I love what you said. You care about people. And I think that is very telling because you don't just care about the homeless people. You care about the people. You care about your citizens. And that has really come through. I have had numerous Kaysville residents contact me to tell me how you have really stood up for them as citizens in a very principled way. And that is really, people are great to kind of complain, but I thought it was amazing that people contacted me to tell me how great you are at standing up for them as citizens.
Thank you.
So what happened is they wanted to put a code blue, which is basically a shelter, temporary shelter, just for the nights that it is sub-zero. Is that correct?
It is. So initially, well, the bill is kind of written pretty loosely, I guess I'm told, so that it can be subject to interpretation.
Yes.
And I've heard that that was kind of intentional because they expected different counties to respond with different responses so they could sort of customize it. But because it was written that way and it's so non-specific, there's been a lot of confusion as to what's actually required and what's just sort of wanted in different counties. And so in Davis County, we decided to come together as a task force. We put some recommendations together to provide for the requirements of the law, which was a 16-bed availability during Code Blue, during the Code Blue time. And it could be any time during the year when it's 18 degrees or colder. So that was our task. And what we did as a county task force was we said, we've done a lot of research and we had heard about a dignity warming bus model. And so I spoke to, lots of people trying to get some advice about this. All of the mayors in Davis County, we had conversations about, well, could this work? And we were told, yes, it could work. It would be definitely outside the box thinking. It's not something that we've done across the Western United States yet, as far as I've heard. There are some warming buses in Florida, in Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. In Canada, they're used quite a bit. I think New York has adopted, I'm not sure, but I've heard that some of the East Coast cities have done this. And so spoke to state leaders and said, what do you think about this? And they said, hey, just because we haven't done it doesn't mean we can't. So we said, okay, as part of the task force, we'll go out and we'll do the research. And so we spent a lot of time doing the research, talking to cities. I've talked to council members in different states that have used these buses. Our city manager talked to people in Canada that have used it. My husband and I were in Florida and had an opportunity because we were there. I called the mayor of Vero Beach, Florida, John Catunia, and I said, hey, I'm from Utah. We're looking at a Dignity bus. They have them in Vero Beach, Florida. I said, would it be possible for my husband and I to rent a car and drive the 4 hours to come visit you? We'd love to talk to you about how it's working there. And so he said, absolutely. He took time out of his Saturday, hosted us for 8 hours, introduced us to the company that makes these buses and retrofits them. And so we did a lot of research. Now I realize maybe not everybody likes the idea, and that's okay. It's not the idea that we were so worried about. It's just we were trying to create a solution to keep people alive.
Absolutely. Well, I think you actually did two things. You wanted to create a solution to keep people alive, but as you said, you care about all your citizens. So you also wanted a solution that didn't draw crime and problems and mentally ill and homeless people into a neighborhood. Because you had two situations where homeless people did cause some serious problems in neighborhoods in Kaysville. I mean, Kaysville is like this wonderful little community that is like been practically crime free since my entire life. It's just lovely. It's just this lovely community, and you really don't have hardly any crime there.
We definitely, like any city, we've got our problems, but we do. But we do definitely do our best to keep them at a minimum and to enforce our laws. And people, it's such a great community where we truly don't have a visible homeless problem that we see,
Right.
but it's because
Yes.
families and community reach out and help family and community as much as we can. I realize there's situations like you mentioned earlier. I listened to your episode with Speaker Shultz. So.
Okay.
In Kaysville, we are a great little community. We have about, in terms of Davis County, just size-wise, we're not very big, and we are sort of in the middle of of Davis County, and
Yes,
so
right.
the idea behind the bus was a couple things. First of all, it allows people to be taken care of, so that they're not really, so they don't freeze to death. But it also kind of created unity within our county as all the cities agreed, okay, this could be a good solution. And then what it did is it didn't create a permanent sort of solution.
Yes.
Because even though the Code Blue law is written as a temporary Code Blue kind of situation, we have heard that the legislation will change to increase the temperature because it's cold at 35 degrees, it's still cold. So I think that there are some tweaks to the law coming that might make it so it's 30 or 35 degrees, and that would constitute Code Blue. We've also heard legislations coming for Code Red, so that people are not outside in the elements when it's really hot. And so our frustration was, okay, you're going to bus people into Kaysville, into the middle of the neighborhood. And it's right now it might be Code Blue, but then legislation will change, and then it's also Code Red. And we don't have any services in this area to provide any support for people. And when you talk about the long term, how can we actually help people and move the needle in changing the look of homelessness? It's wraparound services, and you know this. And most people, I think, would probably understand this. It's not just about keeping people alive for 12 hours out of the day. It's now a bigger problem to solve. And we just, in Kaysville, don't have the ability to provide those resources.
And you don't really have very many homeless people that are really hanging out or living in Kaysville. Am I right? Is that just a belief that I have?
No, you are right. I participated in the point in time count this last January. And during the 3 nights, there was one person who was identified as potentially homeless. And so as volunteers, we left a backpack at a convenience store, and then that was counted in the PIC count as one person in Kaysville, in the Kaysville area. Yeah.
And so it begs to, like, why would Kaysville need to or have to provide a shelter when you have one homeless person that could be, of course they count, of course they matter, but you wouldn't want a facility. And that's not really, it's always a problem when one person is homeless, but that's doesn't
I was
work.
going to say, yeah, for sure. And this person that they identified has an apartment around the corner. But someone at a gas station said, I think this person might need some help. So, and I'm not saying we don't have homeless needs. We do, for sure.
Yeah.
Kaysville is home to a wonderful facility. It has over 500 beds. It is a 100% subsidized project. It's the largest project within Davis County in a singular space. We have right on our border, technically it's in Layton, but Davis Behavioral Health, we have a domestic violence shelter, which is the only one. And it's in different areas than the proposed Code Blue shelters would have been. And so it's not that we're just saying not our problem. We're saying that in order to help people, and all the people that I've talked to, in the past almost 2 years, have said, hey, I don't want to leave my community that I'm in, get bused to another community where I don't know people and I don't have services, and then get bused back, hoping that I get back to where I was. And so that's been, in order to actually help people and meet them where they're at, I think we need to meet them where they're at. So.
Okay, so what is the pushback on the bus? Because have you already decided, like, has Kaysville decided to do the bus?
Well, so it's a county requirement. The law is addressed to the counties. And so as the county said, look, we don't want to manage a bus program. So when we went down to Florida, the organization is a nonprofit that retrofits these big touring buses. They get them retitled as RVs, so the insurance is cheaper. And then they have a whole plan that they provide you to manage this bus program. The county said, we don't want to manage a bus program. The state said, we're not going to manage it. And as a city, Kaysville can't manage it.
Of
And
course.
so there was a funding gap. The bus plan checked all the boxes for the law, but it lacked funding. And the state said, we're not going to fund it if there's no plan in place. And the county said, we're not managing it. So that's where the disconnect happened.
May I ask, how much is the bus?
$150,000 one time. And then
Right.
depending on how often you use the bus,
Sure.
it can be $50,000 a year. Now, when we were talking in Florida, and I realized Florida's not cold, but it is hot, so they are talking air conditioning. They calculated it to be per, I think it was like $8 per sleep is how they calculate it in a year. So that would be the direct cost is $8 per person per sleep. So the cost is pretty minimal, but I understand if people aren't interested in the bus, that's fine, but we did try to provide a solution.
Yeah, I heard a lot of positive things about the bus. I didn't really hear, like, I guess you've kind of addressed what the pushback was, is really mostly funding. Did the citizens have an issue with the busing? Were there citizens who had issues with that? Or is it really just a funding problem from the county and the state?
I think it was just a desire to not manage the program because really the funding gap was about $50,000 between what the state could provide and the county had available. And so I think it was just more of a management. It's just easier logistically for an entity to say, hey, there's a building, let's just do that. And I think that's what it came down to. But no pushback from residents because, again, it wasn't in anyone's city. It would park during the night for sure, but it could rotate to different parking lots. So,
And it wouldn't be in a neighborhood, right? It would be parked outside of the neighborhood.
well, ideally, yes, in an industrial area
Yeah.
is where it would
Ideal.
park. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. And so where are you now? What is the plan now? Where do we stand at the present time?
Yeah, so where it stands now is the county has published a plan on their website that is approved. It has 3 different locations, a location in Layton, in Kaysville, and in Clearfield. I think that the county also has identified another location that they're probably going to use for this Code Blue, but it's not officially on their website, so I don't have a lot of details to share about that. But I know that the county is working towards something that makes sense. Like you mentioned, I mean, I just don't believe that the expectation of putting a shelter in the middle of a neighborhood or in the middle of a city is a fair ask.
Right.
And we're getting a lot of, people from outside, people with opinions saying,
Right.
I can't believe how horrible you guys are. And I think that what they lose in the conversation is the bigger picture and maybe just don't understand, or maybe they do understand it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe they don't. But I mean, sometimes we get our hearts filled with compassion for the homeless, but we forget to have the compassion for the law-abiding, tax-paying family and citizens who own homes and who are also have rights. And also we need to have compassion for, and I think you said it best, like for all citizens. And I think that really is the principle. That is America. The Republic protects the rights of every individual, not just the down and out, not just the successful, but every individual, regardless, they have value and their rights need to be protected. And it is always difficult to figure out how to protect everyone's rights. It is difficult. And it's and being a mayor, it's a lot of work. It's very hard. And the mayor is the one where the boots hit the ground. The most important is the more localized. That's where it impacts us the most. And so it is really difficult. It is a difficult situation. And I really like the idea of the bus. I can see, can we get a building cheaper than $150,000? Because I mean, there's probably some buildings we don't have to buy that the government already owns.
Well, and that's why they chose a location in Kaysville, because they said, hey, we own this. Did I lose you? Oh, you're still there.
No,
Okay.
we're here.
I lost the video, but that's okay. They said, yeah, hey, we own this. This is really easy for us to do. What we're saying is, without any assurance that this isn't going to at some point become a permanent location, it's not something that makes sense in our community, or to
website up on the background, so people can go there and take a look. It's on the Davis County website.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, so did I lose you?
No, you're there.
Oh, okay.
You're there. Thank you.
Yeah, so like you said, it's just an unfair ask to ask people who are law abiding, living within the requirements that are required to live within a community, to inconvenience, not even inconvenience, but just to infringe upon the rights of all of those people.
To endanger.
And yes, it's not a fair ask. So I am committed, though, to continuing as an advocate and really someone who wants to become more educated upon this topic, because prior to almost 2 years ago, I didn't know anything about homeless services or needs. So I'm learning a lot.
Yes, through the fire hose. Learning quickly. Well, you have done an excellent job. So basically, we're kind of back to square one. We're looking at 3 different locations, looking at those buildings, seeing how that would work out, and that's doable. Like if the county or a city already owns a building, the government of some entity owns a building, then it would be, we would still have the expense of running it. And would that be a full-time thing, or would it just be a place where people could go get warm on the cold nights?
Well, what we've seen in other cities in Utah is that cities that have said yes to a temporary have become a permanent facility. And so that's why we were hoping that the bus would work, because it would give us an opportunity to save people's lives, to help people, but also to pause, to figure out what makes sense. Let's use data. Let's make decisions that are smart. Let's just not knee-jerk react to, okay, this is what I've got going. We don't know that it wouldn't become a full-time facility. I have heard that, the county is really looking hard for a location that makes sense, that's not in the middle of a neighborhood, not in the middle of a city. And I hope to be part of that discussion moving forward for this next Code Blue winter. And then I know that there are some in the county that really want to have a permanent facility. So we'll see if the legislation changes. I've heard that the bill might change, and then counties might not be required to provide a facility, but then you know how that goes. I don't know.
Yes, I do actually know how that goes, which would be, because the reality is, this is not like a bill that I worked really hard on, but I did read it and I do remember it. And I feel like well, you know me, I am all about the constitutional and the principles of the Constitution, which is local. And so I do not want the state government, to tell counties and cities what they have to do unless it is a constitutional protection, unless it is necessary, because the cities and counties are not following the Constitution. Then the states have to step in and say, you must follow the Constitution. Otherwise, the cities and counties should be, they should be governing themselves in the best way. And, we don't want to tell counties they have to have a homeless shelter when they don't have homeless people, or that, I think counties, again, we all care. Counties need to figure out the best way to do that on their own without having the big hand of government. So I would be in favor of repealing it and just, supporting counties in doing what is right. Because I do think county commissioners are real life people. They do care, and I don't know county commissioners who aren't concerned about this issue. I think we all care. And I do think we need to each locally find the solution that works best for us. I will say I haven't done research like you have on the bus. There's 2 things I really like about the bus. It's not permanent, and then it can go where the needs are. So when you end up with, like, as Speaker Shultz was saying, Ogden, if they've kind of reduced the homeless problem there, but if it started to increase, they could go there and address it until they take other means to maybe reduce it. it could go to Salt Lake and help out with some needs in Salt Lake if there aren't needs in Davis County. It's so mobile. And then you can always park it in a place that keeps the citizens safe. That, I like the principle of that, the concept of that. It seems, I haven't really heard any pushback other than the expense, which it doesn't seem horribly out of range for prices.
It's actually not. And so when my husband and I went to look at the Dignity Bus program in Florida, I wanted to walk inside, smell it, look around, see if it was gross and disgusting.
Right.
It was, they're really nice. They can be sprayed out. They said that they have literally no crime because it is a touring bus and there are 20 beds and a toilet and a sink. And so people that really do want to sleep at night and want to be safe can do it. And it's a place also that you don't feel threatened. You're not going to get attacked in such close quarters.
Right.
And so anyway, that's probably a continuing discussion to see if there's any interest. But the bigger picture, I think that Speaker Shultz alluded to is, as a state, I'm completely committed to the idea that we need to enforce our laws. We went last year after Christmas, my husband and I wanted to get away. We go to San Francisco. I don't know why, it was a cheap flight. We're in San Francisco, everything's boarded up. There's graffiti everywhere. We know what it looks like. I mean, cities are being ruined. And it's because we need to take a hard stand and say, this is okay, this is not okay. And if we allow things to fester and build, then what do we expect will happen? But I think we need to have facilities to help people. We need to arrest people if they are breaking the law. Yes. And we need to have enable families to be able to help their family members. So
the rule of law is what protects individual rights. Right. We have to have the rule of law that keeps my rights being violated by your actions or vice versa. Right. So, and we have the laws, they mean nothing if we don't enforce them. And, right. and what we tend to forget, what people in their dream to be so compassionate, they don't understand that not enforcing the law is not compassion. Right. Enforcing the law is the most compassionate thing. If as a parent, we know that, we don't give our kids a hammer and a mirror and say, play in the road because they really want to, and they just love it. It's so much fun, Mom. We have enough love for them and compassion that we forbid them to play in the road. We forbid them to play with a hammer and a mirror because of our compassion. So we have these rules and to govern because of compassion and love, because love does not look like do whatever you want to. That isn't really love. That's really selfishness and weakness. And so, Speaker Shultz was right, and you are absolutely right. That is the best thing that we can do to really support people and help them. So, Mayor Tran, thank you so much. This has been such a delightful and interesting and very informative. I did have one question about the buses. So, does the bus driver just stay on the bus?
Yes, that's what they do in other cities. They hire a bus driver who doesn't even need a CDL license. Now, these are really, well, because it's classified as an RV. Now, they are really big buses, so I would encourage a bus driver to have a CDL license. But they're 45-foot buses, so ideally they would stay on, and you would have two people on, just making sure that everyone's safe and sleeps and stuff. I just think that I really hope that our legislators, as they look towards solutions, will also have a requirement for people. We have like I said, a pretty large facility in Kaysville, and I went over and talked to them and said, okay, what are the requirements to live here? And there's a $1 income requirement, but there's no other requirements. I was talking to the director and said, well, how can the city support you? And I was told, well, we need volunteers to come and plant flowers and to paint walkways and to paint gates. And I said, well, don't the residents participate in any of that? And she said, oh no, that would be so unfair. We can never ask them. And I think that's kind of what you alluded to. People need that ability to be responsible for something and be part of something. And it helps teach those self-reliant skills.
It helps them so much. Then they feel ownership. Yeah. They feel needed. They feel important. It is one of the most important aspects of avoiding or helping to overcome mental illness is people need to feel like they matter. And then when they know that you need them to go plant flowers, that they're needed, that is just an amazing positive elixir. It just helps
So true.
so much. So, okay. So, Mayor Trend, what else is happening in your city that you would like to
Oh,
share?
can I talk to you about Kaysville Gives really fast?
Please do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for the last 8 years, Kaysville City has had a Christmas fundraiser. We call it Kaysville Gives. It is city supported but community driven. And this year we still have gift tags. So if people go to kaysvillegives.com, we have gifts that need to be checked out and purchased. If they'll just click on virtual tree, it'll take them to Amazon or they can go buy. And Young Truck and Trailer is one of our great sponsor partners. The Larry H. Miller Foundation is helping us. My best friend Krista Crane's in charge of it, and the city helps. Anyway, it's wonderful. 100 and probably 40 families will be helped, and we've kind of grown every year. And so that's a great way for people who want to give back, and it stays within our community. It supports all 8 elementary schools, our junior high schools, and our high school as well.
Wonderful. So, how do people give us the website or the link? How do people go on and make
So
it?
it's just www.kaysvillegives.com.
So it's just
and they
Kaysville.
can-
It has its very own.
Yes, Kaysville Gives.
Kaysvillegives.com.
Yes.
And go in there and just make a donation.
They can do cash or they can buy tags. Anything would help. So we'd so appreciate that.
Right. That is wonderful. You know, that is one thing that I love so much about living in Utah is it's full of people with great ideas of ways we do care for each other. We watch out for each other. And yeah, thank you, producer.
Thank you.
Wayne, put that up there. Kaysville City Gives. That is really nice website.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do take care of each other and we care about each other. And we are so very blessed to have so much. And it is a great time to take care of others and to really make a difference. And it is amazing how when someone feels lifted and knows that somebody cares about them, how they go out and do something for someone else.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Keep paying it forward. Okay. Well, any other issues that your city is dealing with?
No other issues. We're always looking for great companies and businesses to come to Kaysville, and we want to support the local businesses that we have. Things are really good. We have the most incredible city council right now. I feel so lucky and grateful to be able to work with them and great city staff. So Kaysville's a great place. We're doing well over here.
That is wonderful. I know they feel that way about their mayor.
Well,
So
thank you.
that's really nice. It's fun to be able to work together. So Mayor Trend, what made you decide to run for mayor?
Well, I was
City council, right?
Yes. So I started out years ago as a planning commissioner
Oh,
and then had to quit because our kids were young and my husband wanted to start a company. So went full time into that and raising kids, and then circled back and wanted to be on planning commission again because I just really love the planning aspect. And, I thought if at that point I'd lived here for like 20 plus years, and I thought when I die, if I haven't felt like I contributed at all to the city that I, was in, I would feel bad. So it's just fun to be a part of it. So I ran for city council and then had an opportunity to run for mayor to kind of continue all the great things that we were working on. And so that's why I'm here.
okay. And what's interesting, and I know you know this, but you might even know the number, but there are a lot of female mayors in Utah.
Yes.
I have noticed as of late that there are so many mayors that are women.
The 3 largest cities in the state are run by female mayors. It's incredible.
Interesting. Yeah, it's just been real interesting. So, and I do think it's for the reason that you stated. They have loved their community, they love their city, and they're in a position now that they want to give back and can do that. So I'm sure you have a very supportive husband.
Oh, I do. And I'm glad you brought him up. He's such a good sport. He's going to DC with me Monday, and he just loves to be a part of everything. But yet someone has to do the heavy lifting, and so he's there to help me with that. So
Yeah,
he's going to dress up as a Christmas elf, actually.
Yes, he.
Yes, on Saturday he's going to be Buddy the Elf for our Fill the Fire Truck event at the fire station where people drop off gifts for Kaysville Gives. He's a great support.
That is wonderful. Yeah, that's what it's about. It makes a team. And how many children do you have, Tammy?
We have 2. They're both married, and we have 2 grandchildren. They each have
Great.
1 child.
Sweet. Oh,
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, good for you. So I just want to, this is the Liberty Mom show. And so I just we have a Liberty Mom that's on this. So Well, I just
Absolutely.
want to thank you. I really do sincerely appreciate your service. And I feel like we're really blessed. You've set a really good example. You've been a light to other leaders and especially other mayors and city council people on how to stand up for the homeless and the needy, but also to stand up for your citizens. And I think you've been very diplomatic, very present and very principled, and you've done that in just such a great way. And I think you have set a great example for others to follow. So you definitely have made a difference.
You are incredible. Thank you. I would like people to know. So I was born in South Korea, Seoul, and my husband's a refugee from Vietnam.
Really?
Yes, he was
Wow.
sponsored when he was 12. He came over, his parents stuck him on a boat from Vietnam and pushed him into the ocean, and he was sponsored by a family. So not only do we just love the idea of giving back, but we are so grateful to be Americans. And we are so grateful to be in this country. So
That
it's
is
a privilege.
incredible stories. Wow. That is amazing. Just amazing. So yeah, so thereby I think creates such a love of America and a love of liberty because you know what it's like not to. Sometimes we're so blessed to have it, and people in America do not have a comprehension. If you haven't been to other countries, you can't really comprehend how truly blessed we are. We kind of take it for granted. And so,
It's true.
yeah. And so your family came from South Korea.
So I'm adopted. So I was adopted when I was almost 2.
Oh.
So I came to America through adoption, but my husband had to leave. His mom and dad put him on a boat because he was going to be drafted to fight the Viet Cong.
And they
And
stayed.
They did not escape. No, they just
Oh.
stuck him on a boat by himself with just random people. And he came over to the United States. He's got an incredible story. You'd probably love talking to him.
I would love to have him on.
Okay.
I am going to call you and get him
Okay.
scheduled. I am really excited to hear his story. That is a true American story. I mean, think as a parent, as a mother of 2, imagine that, you know what, you do not want your child to grow up under that
Right.
kind of communist tyranny.
You don't. And we were able to sponsor his whole family, his 5 siblings and his 2 brothers and sisters in 1990.
Really?
Or 1991. I was 20. We'd been married for a year, and we were able to
Oh my
sponsor all 7
heavens.
of them. So just
And you could sponsor all of them.
it was yes. Senator Hatch's office helped us back then, and it was an incredible story. And they're wonderful, successful Americans, and they love it,
Yes.
as do we.
Oh my goodness, that is really something. And then here you are, the mayor. And yeah.
I mean, who would know, right?
Yes. And you know, when you said that he went with you back to Florida to check out the bus, I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that your husband went. So that, helped. Yeah, that shows he is very supportive. He's very involved. He cares. And he is a giver as well.
He is.
So I just want to remind everyone, kaysvillegives.org. Be sure.
.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just checking to see if you're paying attention. kaysvillegives.com. And go in and, any little amount, it's amazing how that adds up. And it is amazing the synergy, how much when we give, how much it comes back to us tenfold. So kaysvillegives.com. So, well, thank you so much, Mayor Tran.
Thank you, Dalane.
I will be in contact. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
A very Merry Christmas. Thanks for being with us.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, well, that was really fun. And I will be paying attention, watch for a future show in the very near distant future, because I am very excited to have Mr. Tran come in and tell us about his amazing story. And okay, so we have the legislative session coming up. It is going to be here before you know it. And so you have an opportunity to really get involved. So what we're going to ask everyone to do is everyone can get involved at their own level. And what we're asking is anything from 10 minutes a day. Who cannot give 10 minutes a day? Please tell me. And you can do it from home. You can go up to the legislature once a week or more than once a week and participate in committee meetings, go get involved. There is so much that you can do. But you can also get very, very involved by just at your home, at your computer. You can attend a committee meeting via your computer. It's very simple. We are going to have a training meeting, and so we're going to teach you how to just streamline it, make it super simple and easy, give you all the contact information for not only your representative and your senator, but all of the representative senators, so that you can get very, very involved, and you can help to educate, help get them up to speed, give them feedback, let them know where you stand, just like we did on the unisex bathrooms. The school board needed to hear from the parents. They needed to hear from the students. They needed to hear from those who pay for the schools. They needed to hear how you feel. We all live in echo chambers. We all do. We need to talk to each other and hear where we stand, and learn these ideas. And that is what's so incredible about our legislative process. A bill, I want to just take a few minutes and talk about the difference between the legislative process and an initiative. Initiatives are legal in the state of Utah. A citizen can go and they can do an initiative. They have to get so many signatures. And if it's a statewide initiative, they have to give, I think it's 160, but don't trust me on it. Might be 120,000. But anyway, you have to get quite a few signatures. And then if you have those, and that signatures is just people signing, saying, I would like to have this on the ballot so the people of Utah can vote for it. And once you have those enough signatures, the lieutenant governor's office verifies that those are legitimate signatures, then that initiative, as it is written, goes on the ballot. Now, once someone starts to gather signatures, not one word of that initiative can be changed. These initiatives are written by anybody. Any citizen can do it. They don't need to know the law. They don't need to have an understanding. They don't need to have an understanding of budgeting or our finances, or if it's fiscally responsible. They just write the initiative. Now, in historically, when we passed an initiative, so once you get the designated number of signatures across the state, then it goes on the ballot, and then the citizens vote yes or no. So usually when an initiative is on the ballot, then the organization or the person who does the initiative tries to get the word out and educate. Of course, they're going to say, this is a great initiative. You should vote for it. Please pass it. But there needs to also be an organization, there usually is not, but sometimes there is, who's saying, okay, here's the flaws, here's the problems. So there can be, but there might not be. And here's the issue. A citizen who really doesn't even understand their initiative themselves, or they might, they can pass that. It can't be in historically, as I was saying, sorry, I'm sort of talking in circles. Historically, if they pass that and it passed and the citizens vote for it, just as Speaker Shultz said, that happened with the marijuana use. It was promoted and presented as a medical marijuana, not recreational marijuana use. And that's how people voted on it. But if you actually read the language, not because the sponsor meant for it to be medical, but the way it was written, because the sponsor had never written a bill, he had never written an initiative. He didn't realize, he is very smart, but he didn't realize that the language actually left it wide open. It took out our laws that protect against medical marijuana, against recreational. And so he even himself didn't realize. So after that happened, the legislature went in, and they, with the actual help of the sponsor in this case, which would not necessarily be the case, but the legislature tweaked the initiative to make it so the intent of the initiative, that it would only be medical marijuana, they fixed it so that would be how the law was. So the legislature fixed the initiative. Then we did that several times. And then a couple of different organizations, after the legislature tweaked initiatives, they went in and sued. And the court ruling was that once an initiative is passed, there are only very small prescriptive ways that the legislature can make any changes to that or tweak it. And so pretty much with very few exceptions, once that initiative is written and passed, that's how it's going to be. Now, that might not sound problematic, but I want you to think through this. Once that is passed, now that we have that system where initiatives, once they're passed, they can hardly be changed. I don't want to say they can't be, but very, very difficultly. And even if the legislature did make some changes, do you think that 99% of the time the PAC or the organization that sponsored it would sue the legislature for making those changes that they felt were necessary? It's going to be very hard to make any changes. Let's just be honest. It will be very, very difficult and very unlikely to make any changes to an initiative. So do you see big organizations coming into the state of Utah, spending a great deal of money? They do not need to work with the legislature. They do not need to have it go through the legislative process. They will now be able to just spend a lot of money, get the initiative, get the signatures, get the initiative passed, and then advertise it as one thing that it is not, and get people to vote for it. And then once the people have voted for it, that is basically a law. Do you think that is how we want to run the state of Utah? We see with California has operated in that manner for quite a few years. And that is why California is in huge massive amounts of debt. You see jungle primaries. You see the problems that we've been talking about, the homeless problems. Many big businesses have packed up and moved out of the state of Utah. They are really upside down. They are in great fiscal and financial, and they're in a principal debt. California is in trouble. Then we see in Colorado, once they got rid of their caucus system, they, within 2 years, went from a red state or a Republican state to a blue Democrat state. And so we see that they are in a great deal of trouble, Colorado. And you see, again, the crime rate has skyrocketed. You see they have recreational marijuana use is very high. There are a lot of problems in Colorado. It's not the state that it used to be. And they have that same system where they're governed by initiatives. Let me explain how a law is passed through the legislature. You have 104 representatives that are duly elected in the state of Utah. And they are duly elected, ideally, by the caucus convention system, which means that you have 4,000 representatives across the state that are elected at the caucus system. Then they go to the convention system. So these elected representatives, what we call delegates, they meet with anyone who's running for an office. So there is a personal connection where the person running, the candidate running, has to meet and face these elected representatives called delegates. Do you think delegates that meet people will make a wiser decision than those who make decisions, the masses of citizens, who make their decisions just based on maybe flyers, postcards they get in the mail, radio commercials, or maybe even some TV spots, but where they don't actually meet or address or get to know those running for office? This is a system that we have had since the beginning of statehood in Utah, and it's worked very well, and it's really done a good job for us. No, it's not flawless, and really unprincipled people can sneak through because they can present themselves different than they are. But is it much better than having just whoever has the most amount of money wins? And that is where we are. This is a very big decision to be making. So we want the caucus convention system to be protected, and we want laws passed through that. So these amazing system of elected neighborhood representatives go meet the candidates and choose who should represent their personal party, whatever party you belong to, whether that's the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or the Constitution Party. You, as citizens, elect people from your neighborhood to go meet the candidates and to go represent you at the conventions. And then they elect legislators. And they decide, the delegates decide who's on the ballot, and then the citizens elect who is going to represent their party and who's going to represent you at the legislature. Now, when a bill is proposed at the legislature, it goes through so many hands and so many processes. First, it has to be created. It gets a bill number and file, and then it goes to a rules committee. First, it has legislative review. So legislative attorneys look at it and make sure that it's constitutional and it's a viable law. Then it goes to the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee is made up of legislators, both House members and senators, and they look at the bill and say, they can look at it and say, you know what, this is just not doable. There's not a will of the people. This is a waste of time. They have so much power. So it has to pass that scrutiny. Now, you can argue that the Rules Committee holds some really good bills. You can argue that, and that would be true. You can also argue that they stop really stupid, pathetic bills from getting through that waste the time of the legislature, because we only have 33 days. 45-day legislative session includes that Saturdays and Sundays when they're not in session. So there's only 33 days they actually meet. And so they need to be very careful that the bills that they sponsor and produce are really worthwhile and good bills that garner some public support and are principled. So with that in mind, first it goes through the Rules Committee. Then if it's a House sponsored, then after it goes through the House Rules Committee, it goes through a House committee where 10 to 15 elected representatives go over that bill. They discuss it. They see all sides. They have people, and that is where citizens can come in and weigh in on it. As a citizen, you get to go say, this is a great bill. I love it. And as a citizen, this is really good for us and I appreciate it. Please vote for it. Or you can say, here's the problems with this bill. This is not wise. This is not good. And these are the problems with it. Please do not vote for it. So all the citizens get to hear their voice be heard and get to weigh in. All the legislators, and these are experts in some different fields, they can say, this is good, this is bad, this is why I like it. They get to discuss it, debate it, tear it apart, read it, look it over. This is an amazing system. And then if it passes, and it has to pass by a majority, if it is simply a tie, it does not pass. You have to have more than 50% support it, and then it moves on. And once it gets past the committee, it goes to the floor. And there you're having all of the House representatives, 75 members, that again debate it, discuss it, weigh in on it, check it out in all ways. And then once they do that, if it gets more than 50% of the vote, it moves on. Then it goes to another Rules Committee in the Senate. They weigh in and decide if this is viable and a good bill. If it passes that, then it will go to the Senate committee. And the Senate committee debates it, discusses it, weighs in. They come up with it and decide. And then if it passes there, then it goes to the Senate floor. And they do the same thing. If it passes that, then it goes to the floor, to the desk of the governor. And as you know, the governor has 10 days to sign it, or 10 days to let it pass, or he can or she can veto it. And then if the legislature says, we love that bill, like the girls' sports bill, we're not going to let you stomp all over our excellent girls' sports bill. At least it's better than nothing. And the legislature, both houses, can override that with 2/3 votes on both sides. So you can see it's harder to let something slip through the cracks when it is done through the legislative process. The legislative process is designed to be hard, but also to be clearly vetted, for every bill to be well vetted so that bad stuff doesn't slip through. It is a superior way to pass a law. It is the way of the design of the republic. We in Utah do have the initiative process, so we can go around the legislative system and go right to the people. And again, it costs a lot of money. Takes a lot of time, especially if you don't have citizen involvement and you just pay people. It's extremely expensive, but it is a great way for big money to get what they want. It's a great way to destroy our state in just 2 or 3 years. It won't take long. I will tell you, Planned Parenthood already has initiative proposed and ready to go. They will be proposing an initiative to change our protection for the unborn and the preborn in the state of Utah, to make abortion more easy to get. And they'll also make abortion seem not bad. They're going to make abortion sound fine. They're going to talk about pro-choice, and they're going to use really nice terms. The privacy of a woman, which, as you know, I am all over. The rights of the privacy of a woman, absolutely. I don't want the government or anyone else coming and violating my privacy. But I also do think that as a society, if a woman wants to end the life of her very own baby, that there's a problem. There's a problem where women think that it's okay, or where women feel like they have no other alternative, that we need to address. I don't think we'll end abortion bylaws, but I do think we do need to consider the damage it does to the women, as well as the damage it does to our society, our young girls and our boys. And without question, the damage it does to the child, to that preborn child. And they have a body and they have a life, and that is what we need to take into consideration. It's not, I have privacy and autonomy to my body as every other woman does. The government isn't telling me very much what to do with my body, although the government does tell me I cannot be a prostitute, I cannot sell my body I can't sell sex for money. So there are some laws that the government has regulating my body, superseding privacy. Again, that is to restore or to enforce a moral code in our society and for the protection of women. It actually does protect women. And so, as well as I do not want the government to tell me what I can or can't do with my body, absolutely not. I do think the government has a right and a role to protect the unborn child, even if it is from their parents, which is very sad to me. So that is something that I think we really need to educate each other on, is the initiative process. The Planned Parenthood is going to come out with this big campaign. They're going to make it sound wonderful. They're going to make it just seem like, oh, what could possibly go wrong? And as we can see, there are so many, there are just so many ways that you can turn the world upside down with really sweet, nice sounding talking points that are not good at all, that are very detrimental to our society and very detrimental to the people. One thing that I would like to support people in also doing is getting very involved. You know, as I said, through this next session, it starts on January 25th and ends around March 9th or 10th. I'm not sure, but it starts January 25th. I would like to invite everyone to either donate one day of the week to going out to the legislature, being involved, or donating 10 minutes a day from your home with your computer. And if you're willing to do that, then what we will do is we will connect with you, and we will tell you every day, okay, here's who to contact. We'll give you, these are the phone numbers, here's the email addresses, here's the talking points. Contact these people and tell them you like this bill or you don't like it, and here's why. And so we will help you get educated and up to speed on those issues. But if we had 500 people sending out a text or a phone call or an email to every legislator each day of the session, we would live in a free state. We would make all the difference in the world. It would be amazing because if they hear from the citizens, the legislators care and they will respond. They just have to hear from enough of them, and they have to hear the reasons. We can't just say, I want you to vote against this. I want you to vote for this. We need to give them 1 or 2 reasons. It doesn't need to be a book, just a few reasons. We definitely have some issues with our elections. The elections are so important. We have to protect and guard our elections like nothing. So Speaker Shultz did talk. He gave some great ideas. There are some great bills up there. They are very well received in the House. We really need everyone to contact their senators and any senators that you might know, because they are not being well received in the Senate. And it's really important. I'm not in favor of mail-in ballots. I don't like them, but if we're going to have them, then we can deal with it. We can deal with mail-in ballots if we have, as Speaker Shultz said, where we have to give our ID to place the ballot in the box with chain of custody, because we have no chain of custody right now. You get your ballot in the mail. I mean, honestly, I get ballots of people that don't live here. I do every year. And even though Davis County says they've cleaned, and they've cleaned up the voter rolls, I still get ballots. I got one, so I shouldn't say ballots. I got one. But even when that happens, a lot of unprincipled, not honest people can justify, well, I really want my friend to win, or this is really important race. So they can just fill that out and send it in. And with the signature path, yeah, it might look the same, it might not, but then they give you a chance to cure your ballot and say, hey, fix this. So give us your signature again. And then they just sign it and say, yes, I, under perjury of law, I signed that this is my signature. We still don't know that. How would you catch that? That's a difficult one. So that's a bad system. And it's so expensive. And then we don't know for 2 or 3 weeks the outcome of the results of the election. That is unexcusable in this day and age. That is not principled. So Speaker Shultz's idea of that, when you show your ID, when you mail your ballot, it is a great idea. That is an excellent way. And it's not perfect, but it does bring things more in line. I haven't received any calls. I would love anybody to call in. I'd love to hear from you. The number is 385-899-2134. 385-899-2134. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Okay, so yeah, elections is a really big deal, and we're going to need everyone to come out, especially in the Senate. We really need to hear your voice. We need to hear you speak out, and it is amazing when people speak. That's the only way we get heard. We don't get heard if we don't speak. I'm so sorry. I did not get a very good night's rest last night, so I apologize to you. Usually it doesn't show. Okay, something that is really exciting is Utah's Congresswoman Celeste Malloy. She did a bill. It passed the House. It's on its way to the Senate. I haven't read it yet, and I am planning to speak to her to get the ins and outs of this bill. But basically, the bill passed the House. It says that some of the lands that are in Utah, that Utah constitutionally owns, but the federal government has taken possession of and is forbidding us to have or to use or to control, that this bill gives some of that property back to the state of Utah for the state to control it. So it would be state parks or state protected lands. And so that is, I consider a great victory and a great win. But of course, as I said, I don't know all the ins and outs of it yet, but I am really anxious to find out about that. And so I will be reporting on that because I'm really excited about that. This has been an issue for however long Utah has been a state, and we have had very little progress at all. And so the fact that this won and got passed through our Congress nationally is pretty huge. I'm really excited about it. That would be really nice. We have to have power over our own land. Decide what we're going to do, what's the best use of it, and the best way to take care of our own lands. That's how it should be. So that will be coming up, and so stay with us. And then, as I said, the unisex bathroom bill is more than a bill. We really just need for everyone to contact their own personal school board members. Contact them and tell them how you feel. Boys should have boys, but girls absolutely need girls only bathrooms. It's not up for discussion. It's a must. It has to be. So I also wanted to make you aware that one of our representatives, Sahara Hayes, she put out, I'm just going to use her name because she did publicly come out and do this because I like to be really respectful of our representatives. But she came out and did I'm sorry, I don't know if it was an Instagram or a TikTok or what, but one of those social media. She did a social media video, a reel, explaining that she was wanting to make available to any teenager who wanted it, these pornographic books that are in our schools that we're trying very hard to take out of our libraries. And she made a post saying, yeah, I'll make it available to anybody that wants it. Come get it. Now, making it available is against the law, but saying you're making it available apparently isn't. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I haven't really looked at it. It does seem like not a very good idea to put a post out there. Hey, you guys want to get in on any of this nasty porn? I'm going to put it in the books, in the little neighborhood libraries, they're just so, I just love them. This is such a neat idea where somebody just puts a little box in their front yard, maybe on a post or not, but they put a little box in their front yard, and it's a neighborhood library, and anybody can just go borrow books, take a book back and borrow whatever books, and just to help make sure that everyone has access to really great books and can read. So she was going to make this available, this horrifically vile and disgusting pornographic books, to make them available in those little libraries so that anybody that wants to can go have access to it. Well, if she did it, that is a violation of the law. If she just threatened to do it, I'm not sure it's a violation of the law. But I still think it's unprincipled. I still think it's unbecoming of a representative, and I would like to see her sanctioned by our legislature. Our legislature definitely has the power to do that. I pray that they will have the will, not because I get my jolly so much on Sahara being punished, but I do think that she needs to know it is not okay. We are paying attention, that we are not okay with it, that we are going to push back. And also that others know that this is not acceptable and that there are consequences for behaving so badly. And we need to be critical thinkers. We need to be thinking about what we're doing and the consequence of this. And we know evidence has shown. There's so much research on this, but evidence shows that when kids get addicted to pornography as kids, it is so much harder to get off of it. It is so much harder to recover from it. When you don't have a fully formed, intact brain and you have exposure to pornography, you can get addicted on that one time, and it happens. And then if you don't take care of it or get it out of your mind or protect your brain from it, it's there. It's very hard. And then the more that kids watch pornography or see it or are exposed to it, when this developing brain, their brain develops with this addiction. And the same is true for cigarettes or for drugs. Young people doing it is much worse because it's much harder to overcome it. They can, of course, but it's more difficult. It's much more challenging, where an adult who has a fully intact, fully formed and functioning brain, then they go out and get exposure. It's not as difficult to overcome. So keep that in mind if you're a teenager and you think you want to start. You just want to experiment. You just want to try it. How many people want to try that the first time and never go on? Very rarely. Most people, it will become an addiction. And then you're in bondage to a thing that you light on fire, you pay for it, light it on fire, and burn it up. Why would you want to do that? Very sad. So, again, I hope that you will contact your representatives and say, we'd really appreciate it if you would be sure and sanction Representative Sahara Hayes. We're not really asking for her to be removed from office or, hung or like have darts thrown at her or, any horrible vile or finger digits cut off or anything like that. Just to be sanctioned simply for that she needs to receive consequences for that bad behavior, and that she know that that's not acceptable, as well as young people knowing that is not a good idea. And also, as importantly, for others to know, for people that are in any kind of position of power, that they all know, we all know, this is not acceptable. It is hardcore porn, and it is not appropriate for young people. They should be exposed to books that are good, books that make you feel warm and fuzzy and make you feel inspired and inspiring. So those are just some of the issues that we're being faced with. And I hope that you will contact me if you have any desire to be part of the training meeting. We will be doing a training meeting in January where we can really make sure that you know exactly what you can do, get up to speed on the bills, their bill numbers, how to contact legislators, what to do, how to go to a committee meeting, how to testify. And, a really important part of that is what I see is a lot of really good people. And what we do is we don't agree 100% with other people that are like-minded. And so instead of shooting the enemy, we shoot each other. We have what I call the circular firing ring. And what I would ask is that we all take a step back, take a deep breath, get presenced, and that we go after each other in a very civil and very appropriate manner, that we can do it with respect and with dignity. We treat legislators who we disagree with dignity and respect so that they will treat us that way and they will listen. Because do you listen to people who do not respect you, that come at you all guns a-blazing and calling you names and calling you out? You don't have much of a desire to. And so I would encourage everyone to use your demeanor and not to attack people specifically. Attack the message, attack the principle or the lack of principle, attack their message all over the place, but we do not attack people because it is not effective at all. Now, if they've come out and said something, you can share that information, but let's again do it in a respectful manner so that we can engage. And I'm all about being effective. Attacking people isn't effective. Let's do it in a way that we can be effective and heard, just as our founding fathers mostly did, because when they didn't, they weren't very effective. So I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and I hope that as you celebrate this Christmas season, that it will not be about the day, and it will not be just about Christ's birth, but it will be about Christ's birth and Christ's life, his example, his atonement. And even if you do not believe that Christ is your Savior or the Redeemer of the world, that you cannot deny the fact that Jesus Christ made the biggest impact in the world that any man did. And I don't think that you can deny that his words, his teachings, his words of wisdom are wise, and that they do create a wonderful world to live in. If we would all abide by them, we would live in true peace and safety and love and harmony. And so I would invite everyone to read the words of Jesus Christ and to follow those words, whether you're a Christian or not, because they are amazing and beautiful, and they do bring liberty and prosperity and peace and joy. And remember that you are the guardians of your liberty. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining us.